Hello, thank you for coming to my channel. This is Rick's Garage, and today we're going to build Pack 2, stages 6 through 10 of iXO Collections, the Willys Jeep. Okay, before we get started, I want to bring you up to date on the iXO shipping situation that I had, that I mentioned in my last video. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link in the descriptions below. As you recall, this is how I received my package. All the parts just and the packs, the stages just thrown in without any care whatsoever. The box was wrapped and then shipped out, and this is how I received it. I reached out to iXO. I voiced my concern and disappointment, and they replied back the other day, and they confirmed my my hypothesis that all these stages should all be in their own individual boxes based on the instructions. So you have box 1, which would be stages 1 through 5, then you would have another box for the instructions of the next step, which would then be 6 through 10, which is what we're going to be doing today. And they apologized for this, and they're going to do an internal investigation to find out why this happened. And to further their apology, they're going to refund part of my purchase. So I thought that was really nice of them. So I just wanted to pass that information on to you, that this is not how these are supposed to be shipped out. They should be in their own individual boxes. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. So let's go ahead and get started on this next build. But before we do, I also want to review what we've done. In the first pack, we did this grill with the lights, and then here's the back of that. And then we also did the hood with all the details on that. And we also did the windshield with the moving wipers. And also too, showed how if you move these supports out a little bit, the window does pop out, as you can see there. Oh, there we go. The windows are popping out. So we got that done. And then we also did our first tire, looking like that. And we started working on the engine, which, as I understand, in this next pack too, we're going to be adding some more details to the engine. So with all that said, let's get on to pack 2. Okay, in pack 2 we start off with stage 6, and in stage 6 they give us a new pair of tweezers. If I can get them out, here they are. And I guess they know that we're going to need these because we have a lot of fiddly work to do here. The tweezers that I'm going to use, though, are these right here. I'll put a link in the descriptions where I got these. I think there's a little bit more better. These are pretty good tweezers, and they're not bad. But I find that when I need to use tweezers, the ones that I already have work out really, really well. And also, too, in pack 1, in one of the stages, which I forgot to mention, they give us a screwdriver. But the screwdrivers I use are from Wera, and these have worked out pretty well for me, and I'll put a link in the descriptions where I got those. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do in step 6 here is to attach the cylinder head, which is this right here, and this is all metal. And you'll notice there are 4 holes here, and there's also a screw hole here. And then underneath the cylinder head there are 4 pins or 4 lugs, which are going to match into these 4 holes here. And then this screw hole here will go through this screw hole here, and that's where we're going to secure it in with a CM screw. Okay, now I've already snapped in the cylinder head on top, and that was a very, very hard, tight fit. Now those 4 holes that I showed you on the corners here where the lugs on the cylinder head go into, you may have to use a file. This is a round file to enlarge those holes a little bit or to get the paint off, because this was a very difficult part to put on. I really had to do a lot of filing to get in those holes in order to get this part on. In fact, this is such a tight fit that I can't remove it to show you what I did. So this doesn't even need, the way it is right now, that CM screw that's going to go in right there. But I'm going to put that in because that's what the instructions call for, and we'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we'll take our CM screw, dip it in a little bit of oil, and screw that right down in there. Nice and tight. Okay, so that's in. All right, now we'll put that aside. And the next thing that we need is the distributor cap. And the distributor cap is right here. And then we're also going to need these spark plugs right here, spark plug caps. And there's 6 of them. We need to cut these off the sprues. And then we're going to then slip them into the holes of the distributor cap. So let me go ahead and get those in, and we'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, when you cut these little spark plugs out, you want to make sure that you leave the tab right here, because the tab is going to go right into the hole of the distributor cap. And they are pretty good of a firm fit, so there's no need to glue those. But that's what it looks like so far, and I'm going to continue putting those on, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, now when you have all the spark plugs in, or into the distributor, that's the way they should look. And you have one left over, so you get yourself a spare. You can put those aside in a safe place in case you need it. And the next thing that we need is the wire support, which is this piece right here. Bring over our engine block that we've made previously, and this has 2 holes in it, 2 screw holes. These 2 right here are going to match up with the holes right there. So we're going to put it on just like that, and we're going to attach it with a couple of EM screws. Now, the EM screws are real tiny. So my PHO screwdriver is the screwdriver of choice for this. We'll put that in some oil, and we'll get this on. Get that side in, and here's the other side. And the wire support is plastic, so I'm not going to screw in real super tight, just enough to hold it in, a little bit thumb tight. Get the other one in. And that's how that should look right there when it's all installed. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is we need to attach the distributor cap to the distributor. Just like that. That just slips in. And that's also pretty tight fit, but once it's all flush and everything, that's not going anywhere. It actually holds itself, so there's no need to glue that. Okay, next we install the ignition coil, and this is plastic. And this is going to go in these 2 holes right here. It's going to go in just like that, and it's going to be held in with 2 DM screws. And just as a reminder, if the screw letter ends in M, that means it's going into metal, and I do dip my screws into oil for that. We'll get this in, and I'll show you what that looks like once it's all in. Okay, and that's the ignition coil. Now if you're wondering about the shiny area here where all the oil is, if that kind of bothers you, you can use isopropyl alcohol, and that will get that right off. Okay, next are the spark plugs that are going to go into the engine. And these are plastic, and we need to cut these off with a sprue, and then we're going to insert them into these 4 holes right here. You do not get an extra one, so be very careful that these don't ping off if you're using your tweezers to get lost in the black hole of your work area. So I'm going to get these cut off and put these in and show what that looks like. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there is a nut formation down here on the bottom of this spark plug. So you have the spark plug lead up here, then you have a flange covering right here, and then you have a little bit of a bar underneath that, and then underneath here it looks like it's supposed to be a nut of some sort or a bolt, and then underneath that you've got the lug that's going to go into the hole here. So the spark plug is not going to go all the way down to this flange area here. It's only going to go as far down until it gets to the bottom of this bolt area. So this is how the spark plugs are going in on mine. You'll notice that they're not all the way flush. They're only going in this deep. So I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's the way that they're going in on mine. Okay, and that's how the spark plugs are looking. I've got all mine pointed to the hole, to this large hole on this wire keeper here. So that's how they all look when they're all installed. Okay, next we're going to start to install the HT leads, and we have these hoses, and they are different sizes. We have a super small one. So the super small one is going to go from this plug here in the center, and it's going to hook up to the ignition coil. Okay, now that's how the ignition hose goes in, or the wire goes in. I think that's kind of a large loop coming up over here. I'm probably going to end up trimming that down a little bit, probably to something more like this later on. But right now I'm going to leave it the way it is and do my trimming a little bit later. But that is the wire that goes from the ignition coil to the distributor cap. Now all the other hoses are basically the same size. So what we need to do now is to attach all these hoses, or these leads, from the distributor cap onto the spark plugs. And I'll do that, come back, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now I'm finding it a lot easier to put the HT lead onto the spark plug first, then put the spark plug into the engine. I'm going to thread this through here and attach it to the distributor cap. I think that's a lot easier to do because these are fiddly and these do go on quite tight. So for me it's a lot easier to do it this way. Okay, that's all the spark plug leads are in. And normally I would actually glue the ends of the spark plugs into their respective lugs, but in this case I didn't need to do that. Those are all very tight, so they're not going to go anywhere. And I don't know what the firing order is, so I just put them in an order that I thought looked good. And that's all there is to the stage. Okay, in pack 7 we add some more details to the engine. We'll get this open. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is start working on the carburetor. So we need this part here, and we need this part here. And the way this goes in is that you have a lug here, and you have a screw hole here, and that lug is going to go into that hole here, and the screw hole there. So it's going to go in like this. And then we're going to secure that in on the other side with an AP screw. Got our AP screw. This is going into plastic, so no need for oil. And that's how that should look. Now this part right here, this is what they call the carburetor regulator. And that's this part right there. When I was test fitting it, it's a very, very tight fit. And it snapped right into place. And it's such a tight fit that I can't take it out and basically show you how to put it in. But it's very simple. This part here has a round lug to it. It goes into a round hole on this piece right there. And when you put it in, it should be in this configuration. So the downward part here should face this lug here. So that's how that should look in that direction, and that's how it looks in this direction. Okay, then we put the cap on, which is right here. And this cap has a lip on the top, and that's just going to slide right down onto here like so. So it's just a push to fit. Okay, next we take our engine that we've been working on, and these two holes right here are going to line up with the two screw holes that you see here. One on this side, one on that side. And it's going to go on just like this, and it's going to be secured in with two AP screws. And that's how that looks once it's installed. Okay, next we take our gearbox and we take our starter and we attach the gearbox, or the starter, to the gearbox just like this. In this configuration, I'm sorry, there's a lug here. It's going to go into that space right there, and it's going to follow the contour of the shape, just like that. And we're going to secure that in with an AP screw. And that's how that looks once it's installed. And then we're going to take our motor that we've been working on, or the engine that we've been working on, and there are two holes. There's a screw hole here on this side there, and it's going to line up with the two screw holes that are on either side here, one by the starter and one right down there. So it's going to line up just like that. And we're going to secure that in with two DM screws. And that's how that looks once that's installed. We put our engine aside for a moment, and then we take our fuel pump and fuel pump support, and there is a lug on the support right here, and on this fuel pump you want it in this configuration so that this lug is on the opposite side of that pump. It's going to go on something like that. Okay, and we secure that in with an AP screw. And once that's secured, it should basically look just like that. We bring our engine over, turn around this way around, and we mount it right here. The lug is going to go in this hole, and then you have a screw hole right here. It's going to go in just like this. And we secure that in with a DM screw. And that's how it looks when that's installed. Next we take our oil pump. In this configuration here, there is a lug right there that goes into a slot right here underneath. And there's a screw hole there that matches up to the screw hole here. So this goes in just like that. And we secure that in with a DM screw. That's how that looks once that's installed. Okay, now we take the two hoses. There's a short hose and a long hose. Okay, the short hose is what I want first, and that's going to go on this lug here, and then it's going to go around onto a lug right there. I'm going to get this on the bottom one here, and then it moves around this way and right into or onto that lug like that. Okay, the longer hose goes on this lug here, so that all the way down, and it's going to go onto the lug on this gold lug right there. And there's your hoses in. And that's the end of that stage. Okay, in Pack 8 we add more details to the engine, so let's get this open. Okay, the first thing we're going to need to do is to assemble the oil filler pipe, and that's this right here, and then we have a cap that will go right on top of that. And this is just a push to fit. It goes on just like so. Just make sure it's all nice and flush. Okay, the next thing we have is a small hose. And that small hose goes onto this lug, and that's also just a push to fit. Slips on just like that. Okay, we can put that aside. And the next thing we need to work on is the oil filler pipe, or the oil container. And that's this right here. Mine already has the cap on it, but this is just a push to fit, and that cap just goes on just like that. But mine actually already had it on there. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do, attach this little tiny hose connector. Now they're supposed to be on a sprue, but mine came already pre-detached on one of them. So I'm going to put this to the side, and this little tiny hose connector, there is a fat end and a smaller end, or a thinner end. It's the fat end that you want to put into the hole right there at the top. So we're going to get this in, and it looks just like that. Okay, now the instructions do say that there is a long hose that goes on this, but I've already attached that to the engine right here. So the end of this hose here is going to be attached to that lug there, and it's going to wrap around. It's going to end up over here. I've already put that hose right there and glued it in. It was a lot easier for me to do that now than it would be to wait until all the other parts are in. Okay, so to construct that alternator, we need this part here, and we also need, just dump these parts out actually, and we need the gear part, which goes right in there like so, and that's just a push to fit. And then we need a top part of that pulley system to go on just like that, and it's going to create a groove right there, and we put an AP screw right there on the top to secure that in. Did I say AP? I meant BP. I'm getting my screws mixed up today. So this is a BP screw that we're putting in. Put that right there and secure that in with this BP screw. Okay, and that does kind of move just a little bit, but that's all nice and secure. Okay, next we have our bracket that we're going to put onto our oil tank. And here's our bracket. And there are 4 holes right here. Those 4 holes are going to line up to these 4 lugs that are on the back. So it's going to look just like that. And we're going to secure that in with a BP screw. And that's how that looks once that's secure. Okay, now it's time to put all of our parts onto the engine. The first thing that we want to do is we want to put the oil bracket onto the engine. There are 3 holes here. These 3 holes are going to line up to these 3 holes right here. So once this is in place, right there, we're going to secure that in with 3 AM screws. Okay, now before you put the last screw in place, you want to put your oil container right in through here. There are 2 holes right here for the 2 lugs that are at the bottom of here. And you want to line those lugs up right there. And then you're going to secure that in with the last AM screw right there. Okay, during the editing of the video, I noticed that there was a part of the video that did not come out, and it kind of stopped when I said to put in an AM screw here to finish the bracket for the oil container. So what I did after I secured this AM screw here, I took the hose that I had already pre-glued here, ran it along the engine block, ran it through this hole here at the bracket, and then connected it up here to the oil container. So just wanted to make that clear, and we'll go on with the rest of the video. Okay, next we attach our oil filter pipe. Put it in right here. There is a screw hole here and a lug down there, which is going to match up with this lug hole and that screw hole. So that's going to go in just like this. Make sure you put it underneath the hose. Might have been better to put the hose in, or the filler pipe in first before I connected the hose, but that's alright. You can still get it in there pretty simple. And put it in just like that. And we secure that in with a DM screw. Okay, we got that in. And last we put in our alternator. There is a lug here and a screw hole there. This is going to match up to the lug hole here and the screw hole right there. And that's going to go in just like that. And we secure that in with a DM screw. And that is the alternator in. And that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, in stage 9, it looks like we're going to add some more detail to the engine. So let's get this pack open. Okay, the first thing we want is the engine front cover, and we're going to create some pulleys. There's 4 sets here. The 2 up here are small, and the 2 down here are large. So it's the 2 large ones that we want first. And this one here has 2 pins that are facing up. You put that on this lug here. Then this one here has got 2 holes where those 2 pins are going to go, and this is going to go face down to insert into those pins. And when you get them on, they're going to look like that. It's going to create a pulley. And we're going to secure that in with a DM screw. Okay, when secured, they look like that, and it does turn, just like that. Okay, next you want to then take this, you want to mount it on the engine. There's a lug there and a screw hole here, and then you have this lip. The lip is going to go underneath your alternator. It's going to go on just like that. And we're going to secure that in with a BM screw. Okay, next we take our water pump, which is this part right here, and there is a lug there, and it's going to go into that hole there, and then there's a screw hole here, which is going to match up to that screw hole there. So this is going to go in like that, and we're going to secure that in with a DM screw. Get it in like that, and that's how that looks when it's installed. Okay, now we're going to work on our small pulleys, and you'll notice that there is a notch there, and that notch is going to go into the indent on the other side, right there. So when these two pieces are attached to each other, they'll kind of like lock into place. And then we're going to take the flat end, the smooth end, this way, and we're going to attach that onto the engine like that. Now the rest of this is going to be a little fiddly because this is not secured in yet. What we have to do next is take the hose, or not the hose, but the belt, wrap the belt around these pulleys, and then secure the top pulley in using the fan blade. So let me get all this on and show you what that all looks like. Okay, I got the belt on, and I ended up having to glue the pulleys together. There was no way that I was going to be able to get this belt on without pinging off the pulleys from this lug there. So I ended up gluing those two pieces together, and then very carefully put the belt around. Now this is a very tight fit. It's very tight, a lot of pressure on this. But if you take your time, you should be able to get it on there without any twists and turns in the belt. So now what we need to do is to take our fan blade, and on the back of the fan blade there are two lugs, and those two lugs are going to go in the two holes back here. It's going to fit on just like that, and we're going to then secure that in with a DP screw. Okay, we got the fan blade in. That's how that looks, and it does turn a little bit. And next we take our exhaust pipe and we put it in this way around. There is a lug, or three lugs, a center one and two on the side, that are going to go into the holes right there around this part here. This is going to be a tight fit, so I'm going to do this off camera and come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, there's the exhaust pipe in. This was a very tight fit between the exhaust pipe and this piece right here. It's possible, I think, that you could, if you really worked at it, to get this piece in. I was really worried that by twisting and turning this piece while this part was already installed, was risking breaking the lugs off of the exhaust pipe. So I went ahead and removed this part, put the pipe in, took a pair of pliers and squeezed it close together, so I got myself a nice flush fit right there. Then took a little bit of maneuvering and a little bit of patience to get this part back in again, because this pipe is basically in your way of that screw, but you can get it in there, and that, for me, that was the only way I was able to get that exhaust pipe in. And that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, in stage 10, which is the last stage in this pack, it looks like we start working on the chassis. So let's get this open and move on to step 1. Okay, I've zoomed my camera out a little bit so you can see the full length of this chassis. This is all metal and it's quite heavy. This is the top, and of course that's how the bottom looks. You want to turn it top ways to you so that the configuration at the back looks like this. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to take the bumper that looks like this. I'm going to attach it to the end right here. the two lugs on the back, two screw lugs on the back, are going to go into these two holes right here. You're going to have two for each side, and that's going to go on just like that. And we're going to secure that in with 4 DM screws for both sides. Okay, that's how they look when they're in. Okay, we have this little wire tidy connection right here, and you want to make sure that when you're taking your chassis out of the box, make sure that you're very careful on how you unpack it, because this little tiny piece is not in its own little plastic bag. It's just sitting right there with the chassis, so this could actually accidentally fall out. So be very careful when you're unpacking this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to get your LED or your electrical wire right here, which is going to probably run an LED, and straighten it out. Being very careful not to hold on to the end when you're doing that, because you don't want to pull the wires out. And just want to straighten it out just a little bit, just like that. And you want to make sure that when you connect it over here, that this is the end that goes here. This, I guess this is the female end or the male end. You want to make sure that this box connector, this is how the two ends look. So the side with the label is going to go out this way. And you're going to connect the other end over here underneath this wire tidy clip, and we're going to secure that in with a DM screw. Okay, I think it's best to start off the screw first in that wire tidy clip, then align it up with the hole on the chassis like that, and then screw it in. Whoop. Probably best to do it this way. Get it started. Turn it around. Flip or slip the wire underneath. Turn the clip around that way. And then secure your clip in. Okay, there's your clip and wire in, and that's all there is to do in that stage, and that's all there is to do in that pack. Okay, in this pack, what we've accomplished and completed was the engine looking like this, very detailed and a little bit weighty too, so there's a little bit of weight to this. So we added all these details to the engine, and we've also started working on our chassis. Getting these two, turn this around this way, upside right, and that's how the chassis is looking right now. What I've noticed in this build so far is that the instructions are not very clear. You really have to take a lot of time to study the instructions, make sure that you understand what parts are being called for and how to put them on. When I did the pulleys, for example, on the engine, it took a while for me to figure out how to arrange those pulleys. And also too, the water pump. Putting the water pump in and where that was called for in the instructions, it's almost hidden. So you got to really pay attention and look at the instructions very carefully, because in a lot of areas they are just not very clear. I put a link in the descriptions and a QR code that will take you over to iXO Collections if you would like to get this for yourself. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, as this does help the channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon, as that not only helps the channel, but will also notify you of new videos posted. Other than that, always have fun in your garage, your workshop, or wherever it is you build your models. Until next time, thanks for watching.